Last night at Boston's historic Fenway Park, the lights went out as the Red Sox faced the White Sox, frightening Tony Pena, the catcher for the Red Sox, as the eerie darkness fell over Fenway. Just at Boston Garden over 3 years ago during the NHL playoffs, the blackout delay stopped the game for about an hour. Tonight, ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball will turn the lights on Fenway Park as the Chicago White Sox meet the Boston Red Sox. Hello once again, everyone, and welcome to ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball. I'm John Saunders. The Red Sox have lost 2 consecutive games just the same. They still have a share of the lead in the American League East. We told you the lights went out on Fenway Park last night. They also went out on Jeff Reardon as he tried to save this game in the 9th with 2 gone. Pinch hitter Matt Murillo takes Reardon's pitch out of the park. His second home run ties the game at 3. Reardon's first blown save in the last 14 chances. In the 10th, Tom Brunansky with a chance to try and get it back, but Joey Cora with a great play there, and the White Sox win it. 4-3 is the final in 10 innings. It's Tuesday night, so we will have the second half of our doubleheader at 10:30 Eastern Time. The New York Mets and San Diego Padres. The Padres ended a 5-game losing streak by beating the Mets last night. It will be Wally Whitehurst going against Eric Nolte. But that's at 10:30 Eastern Time. Up next on Tuesday Night Baseball, we'll go to Fenway Park. I hope the lights stay on as the Red Sox host the White Sox on Tuesday Night Baseball.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Miller High Life. Buy that man a Miller. Buy that fan a Miller. By Subaru. We built our reputation by building a better car. And by Wheaties. Better get your whole grain. Better eat your Wheaties.
ESPN Tuesday Night Baseball from Fenway Park in Boston. The Red Sox and the Chicago White Sox continue their 3-game series this evening. Welcome to Fenway. Bob Carpenter with Billy Samp. A little bit of everything here last night. Power outage, hidden ball trick, and lots of other things as well. We had a good pitching performance by Clemens and McDowell. A couple nights ago, Billy, we saw Alex Fernandez of the White Sox up in Toronto. So tonight, the third member of that young pitching staff, Melito Perez, gets the start.
And some good young pitching do the White Sox have. Perez, only 25 years old, could use a little luck from his last outing in which he struck out 11 and yet lost 2-0. On the other hand, Tom Bolton started the season in Joe Morgan's bullpen, but it's been 3-0 as a starter as Danny Darwin has been on the disabled list.
Well, everybody hears just about Clemens around the country, basically. He's 6-0. But Tom Bolton, probably the number 2, the second best starter the Red Sox have right now. So it's Bolton for Boston, Perez for Chicago, as all those Sox continue their series at Fenway this evening. In the shadow of the Green Monster, where the Red Sox are 10-7 at home this year, here's the Chicago starting lineup. Sox are hitting .251. Tim Raines in left field, the switch hitter, with Scott Fletcher up in the number 2 spot tonight. Frank Thomas playing with a sore shoulder is the third man. He's the DH. Carlton Fisk without a homer is the cleanup man. Sammy Sosa in right field. Corey Snyder at first. Craig Graybeck is at third tonight with Ozzie Guillen at shortstop. And down at the bottom of the order is center fielder Lance Johnson. And they're operating against the Boston left-hander Tom Bolton tonight. Here's his record on the year. Career 2-2 against Chicago in 4 games started and 8 games that were relief appearances.
And he's a 30-year-old left-hander, 6'3", 175-pounder, 15-12 throughout his short 4-year career. And as Bob said, 2-2 versus the White Sox. And he'll be backed by an infield. Quintana at first, Lyons, Rivera at shortstop in place of Tim Nehring, and Wade Boggs a fixture at third.
Nehring is 0 for 37. That's why he's not in the lineup. So Rivera, a good glove man who doesn't hit a whole lot, is the shortstop playing up the middle with Lyons. Jody Reed is battling a hip problem. In the outfield, they have the usual suspects from left to right at Greenwell, Burks, and Brunansky. Tom Brunansky, of course, hits almost all of his home runs here in Boston. Jeff Torborg's White Sox, for the 7th time last year, or rather last night, won a ball game this year in their final at bat. They did it 16 times in the 1990 season.
And they play well in one-run games, have already played 10, winning 7 of them.
The Red Sox start the night tied with Toronto atop the East, 2.5 ahead of Detroit, both of those ball clubs are. And the White Sox are 2 back of Oakland, a half game behind Seattle in the West. Tim Raines, the leadoff man, discussing the back of the batter's box with home plate umpire Rich Garcia.
Garcia, one of the best rules umpires in the league. May be the best now that the late Bill Kunkel's no longer with us.
First pitch of the game is a fastball over but low. Tim Raines' numbers, you saw them, still not very good, but definitely on the rise after he hit 135 with only 2 RBIs in the month of April.
And I think you see a greater adjustment needed by hitters going from the National League to the American League than vice versa.
This one down low to Raines, who hits ahead of Fletcher and Thomas. White Sox are tied with the Yankees, number 9 in the league, with that team batting mark of 251. Little chopper. Wade Boggs is waiting for it. Easy out for the first one.
And the reason for that adjustment that I alluded to when Raines was at the plate is because in the American League they throw more breaking balls. They try to keep you off speed more or off balance more. And in the National League it's a little more reaction because you will see 2-0, 3-1 fastballs.
Well, Tom Bolton, for the first time in his career, really is experiencing success as a starting pitcher. His confidence at an all-time high. Scott Fletcher doesn't hit number 2 a whole lot anymore. Jeff Torborg prefers to hit him down at the bottom of the order. But against the left-hander, things are shuffled tonight, so Fletcher behind Raines and ahead of Thomas.
And Bolton features a 4-seam fastball that runs up, a fastball that he turns over, and a curveball. Can be murder on left-handers.
Well hit to left center. Back going Greenwell. It's off the monster. Fletcher will have to hustle to get the double. The throw is there.
And the beauty of watching Greenwell play that ball off the wall. Torborg starts to go out to argue. But Greenwell got the ball so soon that even though the throw was offline, because the ball beats him there, as we take a look at it, bare hand, knows where he's throwing. The ball beats Fletcher there. He tries to slide around it. And I'm not sure if he came off the bag. Strong throw by Greenwell. Lyons takes the throw, the former White Sox. And the former Red Sox now dives to a place in front of the bag. Fletcher thought he got in, but he took his left hand off. And then in the process, Lyons got the tag.
So a single, and the play goes 7-4 on the putout. Frank Thomas, the hitter, and he looks at a breaking ball in there. The count is even to him, 1 ball, 1 strike. Thomas is Chicago's only legitimate power threat right now on a regular basis. They've seen occasional power from Sammy Sosa. But really, Thomas is the one guy that if it gets down to a clutch situation late in the game, he's the man they can pitch around if you're afraid of the ball leaving the park. Fastball is in there.
Well, the Chi Sox have only 19 home runs. That ties them for next to last with the Angels of all people. And the Royals, who are off to a poor start offensively, have only 12.
Ripped up the middle. Thomas aboard with 2 down. Frank Thomas came in hitting .280. And he's at first base with 2 outs for Carlton Fisk.
Tried not to do much with it. Fastball running away from him. He's going back up the middle. And gets a base hit.
Look at that shiner under Carlton Fisk's left eye. Last night he took a throw from Sammy Sosa that took a crazy hop on him and bounced up and got him just below the left eye. It was a play in the 7th inning that gave the Red Sox the lead, which they later lost when Jeff Reardon gave up that Matt Marullo home run that you saw. But Fisk is back in there tonight. You get the feeling it'll take more than that to get him out of a ball game in this park after all the great years here.
And he hits well against his former mates.
Just a little chopper to Boggs. He'll go the short way to Lyons. There were 2 outs anyway. Lyons didn't know it.
That's why they call him Psycho.
One way or the other, Lyons makes interesting things happen on the field. Hidden ball trick last night, and now this. 254, 7th best in the league. Will come to bat in the bottom of the inning against Melito Perez. With Wade Boggs leading off, Steve Lyons behind him with Ellis Burks and Jack Clark. The cleanup man, also the DH. Mike Greenwell bats 5th with Tom Bernansky behind him. The red-hot Carlos Quintana hitting a cool 350 coming in. Tony Pena in the 8th spot. And Luis Rivera is the shortstop batting 9th against the young Chicago right-hander Melito Perez, who, like Bolton against Chicago, is 2-2 career against the Boston Red Sox.
And a 25-year-old right-hander, 38-41 throughout his career in his now 5th season. Basically a fastball forkball, and he, as well as his brother Pasquale, both on the hill tonight.
For the White Sox defensively, Corey Snyder at first base. They're playing different people there. With Frank Thomas injured, Scott Fletcher, Ozzie Guillen, the Gold Glover at shortstop, although he has a number of errors this year, with Robin Ventura on the bench tonight against the left-hander Craig Grayback, who's the third baseman. Out on the outfield, Tim Raines is the man we focus on. He's the veteran playing in front of the speedy youngsters, Lance Johnson and Sammy Sosa.
But he's the vet, but this is only his 2nd game at Fenway Park. Hit the ball.
Wade Boggs is the leadoff man. On base average up in the 450 range. He's hit for good power so far. And he's working on a 6-game hitting streak after going 3 for 3 last night.
They try to keep the fastball up in the strike zone and that forkball low. And as we said in the open, he struck out 11 Toronto Blue Jays his last outing.
Drops the breaking ball in there. 1 ball, 1 strike. Rather 0-2. Boggs was on base 5 times last night. They walked him twice intentionally to get to Steve Lyons.
That Lyons made them pay, driving in a run 1 of those 2 times.
And Perez shows the good fastball, just missing inside.
So you get him on that good fastball, especially across the letters, then come back with a forkball a little lower in the zone. Like that one.
Boggs did just get a piece of it. Or did he go around at all? They put ball 2 and strike 2 up on the board.
They don't even check when it's Boggs. When you have 5 batting titles, there's not even an appeal.
It is 2-2, says Richie Garcia. And up the middle, this one will be easy for Scott Fletcher. 1 out.
Pardon me, that's 6 batting titles for Boggs. I took away 1.
7.
He only hit 302 right.
Well, he'll probably grab a couple more for himself before it's all over. Here's Steve Lyons, who had a big hit last night. Drove home his 3rd run of the year, is now hitting at 250.
And Bob, you talked about that hidden ball trick that he pulled last night on Ozzie Guillen at 2nd. The last time a hidden ball trick was pulled in the major leagues, it was by another Red Sox, then 2nd baseman Marty Barrett.
Yeah, he caught Jim Traber napping when they played the Orioles back in '88.
In fact, Guillen has been foiled a couple of times by hidden ball tricks, or when he's at first base diving back to the bag in an attempted pickoff move, the first baseman fakes a throw back to the pitcher, and twice tagged Guillen for outs 2 years ago.
Joe Morgan, Tony Pena to our right. Has his Red Sox winning 7 of their last 10 out of 14, despite losing 2 straight. They were bombed here by Texas on Sunday and then edged in extra innings by the White Sox last night.
They were bombed by Texas on Sunday, but the previous 2 days they bombed Texas, scoring a lot of runs. Actually spotting Texas in one of those games 4-0, and then coming back and scoring 10 of their own.
Did he go on the fastball away? Yes, he did, says Larry Young at third base, and Perez fans Lyons for the second out.
Looked like a fastball running out of the strike zone. Too close to take and too close to let go.
Base is empty, 2 outs, and to the plate steps Ellis Burks. Burks off to a slow start, but now he has a 7-game hitting streak going. 313 over the last week has the numbers up to 245. And he lines one into the seats foul.
Safe to say not a lot of foul territory here at Fenway Park. Another reason why they have hitters with high averages, outside of the fact you've got the short wall and left. And the Red Sox play so well at home. They won 51 of their home games last year.
And on a cool night here at Fenway, Perez blows the ball right by Ellis Burks. A count of 1 ball, 2 strikes. Perez, 25 years old, threw that rain-shortened no-hitter against the Yankees last year, back in July. But endurance has been a problem for him, especially last year when 11 times he did not pitch beyond 5 innings. We'll see how long he goes tonight as he bounces the fastball way out in front.
Well, Bob, as a staff, the White Sox didn't pitch long with their starters. A league-low 6.1 inning from their starters. This is a forkball that bounces about 56 feet from the pitching rubber.
Carlton Fisk doesn't need any more of that after the pounding he took here last night.
In his 23rd year, how many times do you think he's taken a ball off the mask or thigh or the thigh or mask? And Perez having trouble getting that forkball over.
3 balls, 2 strikes now with 2 outs and the bases empty. He has to retire Burks or face Jack Clark with a man on here in the first inning. Breaking ball, long one to left field. And waiting for it to come down is Tim Raines, but it's into the screen. A Fenway fly, and the Red Sox lead 1-0.
And if I'm not mistaken, he looked like he went down to get a breaking ball. After missing with 2 consecutive forkballs, you almost got the feeling that Burks would be looking fastball, especially with Jack Clark coming up. This one dives down in the middle of the plate. I think it was a forkball. A good piece of hitting.
Red Sox hit their 22nd of the year. Burks is second, his 8th RBI, and Jack Clark will be the hitter. Clark has hit 3 home runs on the year. He's driven home 11. And it looked like the breaking ball was in there. Lito Perez knows all about first inning pitching problems.
Yeah, a lot of pitchers go through that. Andy Hawkins had that problem, just recently released from the Yankees. David Cone, very successful, but has trouble in the first inning. Sometimes it takes a while for the pitcher to get his rhythm. And if you have problems in the first inning and you're trying to get through it, and you've already given up a run, well, I think that can play on your psychic for the remainder of the game.
1-2 pitches well low and outside. And you have to think, Billy, early in the season, the weather has to be a factor as well. Perez from the Dominican Republic does not like cold weather. And so sometimes he is slow out of the gate. That was the 5th home run of the year he's given up. And here's a guy who can make it back-to-back shots in a hurry. White Sox had 2 hits in their half of the first. Could not score. Red Sox on one swing take the lead. And Clark with a 2-2 count. And Perez thought he had strike 3.
And I thought he did as well. That's one of those, the infielders are running off the field, and the only people staying at the plate are the hitter and the umpire.
3-2 to Clark with Greenwell on deck. Challenge in with a fastball. Deep short. Ozzie Guillen has it. And long throw got him by plenty. Good D by the Gold Glove shortstop. But the Red Sox take the lead on Ellis Burke's 2nd home run.
Down 1-0 to Boston. Meantime, his brother Pascual Perez making a comeback. First start since April of last year. He's been injured. Only 3 starts last year. Here against Dave Winfield. And runs to the dugout. Meantime, Mark Gubicza of the Royals, he hasn't made a start since June of last year. Against Mookie Wilson, he got through the first. McFarland has a home run. It's 1-0 Kansas City there. Get back to Bob and Billy.
All right, John, thanks. And here at Fenway, as usual, the long ball is played apart. 2nd inning underway as Sammy Sosa steps in for the White Sox. Sosa has hit his home runs in bunches this year, 2 on opening day, and then 2 over the next month or so, and then a game-winning shot for the White Sox in Toronto the other night. And he's ahead in the count 2-0 against Tom Bolton. Sosa, Snyder, and Graybeck for the White Sox in the top of the 2nd.
Well, Sosa's the kind of guy that's going to hit some home runs, really swings hard. Of course, he'll strike out quite a few times as well. Struck out 150 times last year.
One of the reasons that the White Sox have gone out and obtained Tim Raines, because they had leadoff men last year who just didn't get on base. Sosa and Lance Johnson, 2 of the 5 worst in the league. He got one inside and rocks it into left field. Big hop. That gets it by Greenwell, but Sosa will have to hold. That's the 2nd consecutive single that has reached the left field wall. Scott Fletcher thrown out on one trying to stretch it, and Greenwell holding Sammy Sosa.
Corey Snyder, first base. Snyder.
Well, it takes that big hop and gets by him. And Mike knows that even if the ball touches the wall, it's only 3:15 down the line. He can still hold Sammy Sosa to the single. Corey Snyder is the hitter with Sosa on first base. Chopper got him in the foot, so it's a foul ball. Snyder at first base tonight. White Sox have a number of options. Frank Thomas, though, option A, doesn't look like he'll be playing much first base the rest of the year because of his shoulder problem. So Snyder off to the bad start. We'll see some playing time. Against right-handers, Dan Pascual will play like he did last night when Roger Clemens was throwing for Boston. Carlton Fisk has been working out at first base. Ground ball. They'll have to hurry for 2. Lyons turns it. Got them both. 6-4-3. Rivera got it started. Lyons made a quick pivot, and they still had Corey Snyder by a step.
14.
Over to the hole. Lyons hung right in there with Sammy Sosa bearing down on him and made the strong throw. Red Sox turned their 30th of the year. The White Sox hit into their 36th double play of the season.
And for Lyons, a guy who normally plays in the outfield, he turns a pretty good second base. Looks good turning to double play.
Greg Graybeck is the next hitter, batting in the number 7 spot for the White Sox. Little guy is off to a great start in a utility role. This is his 11th game. He's been up there 13 times with 6 hits. 5 of those singles, 1 a home run.
When he hit the home run at Comiskey, that's when people started to say, it's going to be a good home run hitter's ballpark. Craig only 5'6".
Now wait a minute. This is a guy who hit a home run off Nolan Ryan last year. Rivera waiting for this one. Graybeck is gone. So are the White Sox in the second. Nobody's stranded. They've had 3 hits, but haven't moved anybody to second base so far. These same 2 teams in action tomorrow night on ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball. Our Tuesday night version has the home team on top after 1.5. Mike Greenwell leads off in the bottom of the second inning.
And on his backswing, he hit Fisk, I believe, in the mask. And you talked last night about how he took a bad hop in the eye. Maybe that jarred. No, actually hit him on the elbow. You see Carlton rubbing it there. Must mean that the Red Sox plan to steal some bases.
Right on the end of the barrel. Melito Perez throws a strike down in the strike zone to Greenwell, who's off to a better start than he was last year. Bernansky is the man who's up next. This is Mike Greenwell hitting .272.
But after getting off to that slow start last year.
Boy, what a bad start that was. .272 for him in May is like hitting .400.
But he ended up hitting .297. The only year in his 5 in which he did not hit .300 or better.
And of the 4 men retired so far, Melito Perez has thrown 3 ground balls. Now Bernansky will step in with his 5 home runs, 20 RBIs. And the breaking ball well outside.
And Bruno, who averages 25 home runs a year, did not even get 20 last year here with the Red Sox.
Well, that trade was made with St. Louis that sent Lee Smith to the Cardinals, where he obviously is having great success now. 11 out of 12 in save situations. Everybody thought Bernansky would just wear out the Green Monster here. Just hasn't worked that way. Just an easy pop fly into center for Lance Johnson. Billy, some hitters will tell you the presence of that wall out there makes them do different things than they normally would.
Well, I think with Bruno, even though he's big and powerful, he's basically a line drive hitter, so the wall is going to cut down some of his drives.
Base is empty, 2 outs. Carlos Quintana, the hitter. 14 for 25 he was through Sunday. Added a 3 for 4 Monday night to raise his average up to 350. 4th best in the American League. He has 13 multi-hit games this year. That's tied for best in the league with Baltimore's Cal Ripken.
And he's a guy that tries not to do too much with the ball, hits well to the off-field, stays on the ball long. It negates some of his power, and he really didn't have great power numbers in the minors, but it helps his average.
And the lack of power that Quintana features is one of the reasons that there's so much talk about Mo Vaughn coming in here to play first base eventually. Big 6'2", 220 left-handed hitter with power. But he's only been in the minor leagues for a year and a half and needs a lot of work defensively. So Mo Vaughn may not be here for a while. Well hit, but on the ground to Ozzie Guillen, who scoops and fires in an easy inning for Melito Perez. He's retired 4 straight after the Ellis Burks home run. That's the difference. Red Sox lead 1-0.
The Oakland A's. The A's, a team that's been struggling on the road. It's Szarski in the first inning facing Cal Ripken Jr. takes the breaking ball. Ricky Henderson gives it a look. Number 9 on the year ties him for the lead in the American League. However, the Orioles weren't done. Joe Orsulak, the next batter, goes the short way towards the line in right field. That's in there for a home run. Back-to-back homers for the Orioles, and they lead it 2-0 now in the second inning. Now let's take it back to Bob and Billy at Fenway.
Thank you, John. That's quite a matchup of hitters in Baltimore tonight with Dave Henderson of the Orioles and Cal Ripken. Dave Henderson of the A's, Cal Ripken of the Orioles, now tied with those 9 homers, and that Ripken home run put him 1 RBI ahead of Dave Henderson atop the American League.
And he still continues to hit in spite of the fact that Glenn Davis is not batting behind him.
This looks like the year when Cal was finally going to put it all together from start to finish. You know he'll stay healthy and play every day. He always does. Third inning underway as Ozzie Guillen fouls the first pitch out of play.
Yeah, Cal has been about 4 or 5 years without those awesome numbers. He still manages to put up about 20, 22 homers and 70, 80 runs batted in. But he's off to a fine season.
Ozzie Guillen batted .283 in April. His numbers have fallen down a bit. .260 coming in. And a little red-faced after falling victim to the hidden ball trick here last night when he was at second base. What happened was Lyons had covered first on a sacrifice play moments earlier and just walked over to second base, was chatting with his former teammate. Ozzie wandered off the bag as Clemens had his back to both guys, and suddenly Ozzie was tagged out by the beaming Lyons. Little pop fly left field. Left fielders can play very shallow here, and it's an easy play for Greenway.
And talking about that play, as good as it was for Lyon to be able to beat Guillen like that, it's good that you have Steve Palermo, who was the second base umpire tonight at first base, aware of that situation so he can make the proper call.
There's a guy the White Sox have to start hitting. The Walt Riniak swing. No contact for Lance Johnson, and contact has been a problem. Only 1 RBI. He's batted up and down the lineup, as high as number 2, as low as number 9. And an easy hopper. Lyons throws him out, not by much. 2 down.
Well, he has to start hitting because when you have the 8th place hitter and the 9th place hitter on, and you have a guy like Raines in the top of the order, and when he starts to hit, you've got 9-1 with good speed, and that'll help set up guys like Thomas and Fisk and Sosa in the middle of the order.
Back to the top of the order. Tim Raines hit a ball to the left side. Wade Boggs threw him out to start the ball game.
Rock, of course, who switch hits, a little more open from the right side than he is from the left. Off the plate a little more as he dives into the pitch.
Saw a comparison the other day, Billy, between Tim Raines and the man he was traded for, Ivan Calderon. Raines with 5 RBIs at last check. Calderon had, about 24. And people said, yeah, but Tim Raines is a different kind of player. He'll outrun Calderon. At last count, Raines 5 stolen bases. Calderon had 8. So the Expo is getting the better of the deal right now. 2 balls and a strike, and a 2-hopper. Right side, Lyons will throw out another. Easy inning for Tom Bolton and the Red Sox. 5 in a row retired. Middle of the 3rd. 1-0 Boston. In his 4th decade behind the plate, the ageless wonder Carlton Fisk and the modern-day Boston hero Wade Boggs battle again here tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN's Wednesday Night Baseball. White Sox and the Red Sox from Fenway. Jeff Torborg's White Sox, hopefully, in his mind, going for a sweep tomorrow night if they can sneak this one after stealing one away from the Red Sox last night. Tony Pena leads off in the bottom of the 3rd, followed by Luis Rivera and Wade Boggs.
And on this trip, the White Sox had a game stolen away from them in Toronto, apparently, and then came back twice, ended up winning it in extra innings 5-3. But they had a situation in which they had their closer Thigpen, as Reardon was for the Red Sox last night, and he gave up a 2-out home run to Roberto Alomar in the bottom of the ninth. The same thing happening to Reardon last night. Matt Marullo giving the White Sox the tie, and then they went on to win 4-3.
Yeah, before that home run last night, Jeff Reardon had been 10 for 10 this year, 13 for 13 dating back to last season. And he gave up his first home run since last July when Matt Marullo went into the bullpen here last night. How's that for a leadoff man? He won't steal many bases, but he'll get on. Tony Pena hitting .248 overall with 2 balls and 1 strike. And Perez breaking ball failed to catch the outside corner.
And a difficult guy to defense because Tony goes to the opposite field well. I don't believe I see any guy get more 18 hoppers go through the right side for RBI base hits than Tony.
Hickett on base as the leadoff man. First time the Red Sox have put their leadoff man aboard.
Louis Rivera, the shortstop. Rivera.
And down to the number 9 spot. As we told you earlier tonight, Tim Naehring, the season opening shortstop, 0 for 5 on Sunday, 0 for his last 37. So for the moment, Rivera is the starting shortstop.
And as difficult as an 0 for 37 can be, as Naehring has one, as Snyder and Perez have a conference to see how they're going to cover in case Rivera, who's a good bunter, decides to bunt. But Naehring is taking it well. He's 0 for 37, and I asked him before the game how many people have come to you to tell you their 0 for stories before giving him one of my own. And I guess everybody has been offering advice whether he asked for it or not.
Everybody expecting a bunt, but he's swinging away. Probably could go over to the White Sox dugout and talk to Robin Ventura, who had an 0 for 41 last year. What was your longest 0 for?
In Double-A ball, I took an 0 for 37. I won 11 straight games without a hit. In fact, it was so poor that when I finally got a hit, it was the lead story in the news that night. But as difficult as that can be for a veteran, you can imagine what it's like for some of these young kids, because they really hadn't had to go through that type of unproductivity.
Now it's no balls, 2 strikes.
And that'll take the bunt out of your hands right there. A good fastball riding away from him. Looks like it's got a little run or a little cut to it off the outside part of the plate.
Yeah, now you start thinking about the double play ball. Perez has the fork ball. He can throw it down low. Not any speed at the plate or at first base for the Red Sox. He went with a fastball and tried to catch the outside corner.
And Fisk held it there. Maybe setting up the next pitch in case Perez finds that same location on the outside corner.
On 1-2, he misses low and away. Carlito Perez, 25 years old. For the White Sox last year, 13 and 14. He started 35 games, but only pitched 197 innings. Reflects that point we told you about earlier when he failed 11 times to get past the 5th. He only averaged a little over 5 innings per start. This one is well hit to left field. Raines coming on to grab it. The ball was hit so well it hung up for Tim Raines.
And as a hitter, you're yelling from the batter's box, get down, get down, get down. But on a brisk night, it carries. Pretty good hitting after seeing fastballs away. He turns on one inside. Raines comes in. and makes a diving catch.
Was Ozzie Guillen serious jumping for that ball? How many balls do you see the shortstop jump for and then the left fielder catches?
Unless he was trying to deke the runner at first by freezing Pena, and Pena gets picked nearly. Oh, he just did get back.
You know, the Red Sox don't run very often, but they have stolen 12 out of 17 this year.
And they did everything but pick Pena off. Again, if you have a left-handed first baseman with the glove on his right hand, he gets the pick off on that play.
Wade Boggs pulled the ball his first time up. You know, watching him in batting practice here is really impressive. Fitting that we show the green monster on that shot, because his first time in the cage probably put 15 balls up into that screen. Prompting Bill Fisher, the pitching coach, who was throwing BP, to remark, I hope we have a lot of balls down here for batting practice tonight, because Boggs is losing about 1 out of every 3. He's got that patented swing for this ballpark that leads to a lot of doubles and a good number of home runs.
And you have to understand what kind of power Boggs does possess when he can put it into the screen. It's one thing to hit it off the wall, because you really don't have to hit it but 310, 320 feet. But to put it in the screen, you've got to have some power to lift it over the wall. And Boggs will put on home run displays during batting practice, but during the game he really doesn't exhibit that much power.
Runners going. Pitches high. Carlton Fisk never made a move. Tony Pena with his second steal of the year.
And surprisingly, the Red Sox have 13 steals this year. I guess they catch Fisk napping. Carlton not thinking Pena is going to take off. He sees him there. Well, I guess maybe not. Now he sees him. And I'm not sure if anyone had covered the bag. Fletcher's getting there a little late. Guillen is late backing up.
2 balls, 1 strike.
Fisk felt that there was no reason to throw it into center field.
Well, normally when a guy starts running, the dugout hollers, and evidently nobody hollered at Carlton Fisk, and Boggs might have blocked his view. Now he pulls it again. It hops on Corey Snyder, who makes the play himself, and with 2 outs, over to third goes Tony Pena.
And Perez retiring Boggs on a pretty good fork ball. That ball looked like it might short hop Snyder as he's going towards the line. And it does a little bit. It gets a little bit of an in-between hop, but gets it early enough to call off Perez and retire Boggs 3 unassisted.
And with Pena at third, 2 outs, it'll again be up to Steve Lyons. Wasn't shown a whole lot of respect by Jeff Torborg last night, as twice Boggs was walked intentionally to get to the number 2 man. It paid off one time. The second time, Lyons came through with a hit to give Boston the lead. And he lifts one to left center. Chasing it is Lance Johnson. He can't get there. It's 2-0 Boston. Lyons doubling to the wall in left center.
And he's reacting as if he had something to prove. Looks into the White Sox dugout as he rounded second base. The feeling was that Lyons in a White Sox uniform was complaining a little too much about his playing time. No one that he was going to unseat, because the White Sox have so many youngsters, as Johnson tries to karate kick that wall. I assure you, Lance is not going to fall. And he may have hyperextended his knee. He appears to be okay.
Red Sox have used the monster tonight to take a 2-0 lead. Here's Ellis Burks, who hit a fly ball into the screen 2 innings ago.
hit a forkball into the screen his first time, and they start him off with a fastball away. Perez has had success with that running fastball on the outside part of the plate. Has had trouble getting that forkball over, especially in the first inning. And he's had some success up there as well with that high fastball running away from the hitter.
Busy night for Perez already, who's averaging well over 15 pitches per inning. This will be his 48th. He's only worked 2 2/3.
And as you pointed out earlier, it doesn't appear that he's going to get into the 7th if this pitch count remains this high.
Burks on an off-speed pitch pulls it left side. Graybeck throws it out, and the inning is over. But the Red Sox on one hit. The Lions Queen Monster double, and Boston leads 2-0.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Gallo White Zinfandel. It will change the way you think about Gallo. By Aetna, a policy to do more. And by John Deere Lawn Care Dealers. Stop by your local dealers to see why nothing runs like a deer.
3 innings in the scorebook at Fenway Park in Boston tonight. Bob Carpenter with Billy Sample, and a 2-0 Boston lead. Scott Fletcher will lead off in the 4th inning for the Chicago White Sox. Fletcher, Thomas, and Fisk, the numbers 2, 3, and 4 hitters. And Tom Bolton working with the 2-run lead, gets ahead of Fletcher, who singled off the wall his first time. They're now trying to stretch it. All part of a frustrating May for the Chicago second baseman. Now he's in the hole 0-2 on the breaking ball.
And when you're having a frustrating season, it seems before you get into the batter's box, well, it's 0-2, as Fletcher has now. As you look at part of the Red Sox bullpen. And Joe Morgan has quite a bit of flexibility. He and Bill Fisher, because Bolton, who is now a starter, started the season in the pen. Dana Kicker can also start, but he's in the pen now. All to set up Reardon. He's used a few people to set up Reardon. And even starters like Danny Darwin and Matt Young have pitched from the bullpen somewhere in their career.
Fletcher on a pitch down and in. No contact there. And the first strikeout of the game for Tom Bolton.
35.
And this pitch looked like a running fastball or maybe a slider. It really had some bite in. Maybe a sharp slider or a cut fastball, but very effective on right-handed hitters with 2 strikes, because it looks like a nasty fastball that you've got to try to make contact with, and by the time you commit, it's in on your hands.
1 out. Frank Thomas, the hitter. Still trying to get it started away from Comiskey Park. And he singled sharply up the middle his first time.
And a guy with his strength, if he works going up the middle, then he should be strong enough to pull especially a breaking pitch inside.
And he goes the other way. Big power hitter came in hitting 280. And he's gone 2 for 2 with a couple of singles. But singles have been the White Sox big problem lately, Billy. They're just not hitting for much power over the last couple of weeks.
Well, as we said, 19 home runs as Thomas tries not to do too much with it. But I have to commend the young man, because a lot of people, especially when they realize that they're counted on for power, will try to hook that pitch. And at this point, if that's all Bolton's going to give you, then go ahead and take it, especially less than 2 outs. And then you hope later in the game somebody hangs you something on the middle of the plate so you can turn on. But you see with that pitch, Bolton turns it over. Not a lot you're going to do with that if you try to jack up. It's hard to drive that pitch because it's sinking, and it's hard to pull because it's sinking as well, and the best you're going to do is ground to the shortstop.
Well, Carlton Fisk now 97 at bats this year without a home run. The longest in his career at the start of the season without getting one out of the park. He hits this one into left center. Nobody will catch it. We'll watch Thomas around second. He's going for third. Fisk will settle for a single. And the White Sox have runners at the corners with 1 out.
And not only a good piece of hitting by Fisk, waiting as long as he can on the turnover fastball, looking for it out over the plate. But as Thomas rounded second, Burks had a chance to try to get him at third, decided, no, I'm going to keep the double play in order. There is one out, and he threw to second base.
Yeah, late innings, he might play that a little differently than he did here in the fourth. Sammy Sosa with an RBI opportunity. With his second inning single, now 4 for 12 career against the Boston left-hander. Bolton misses with the fastball, down and away.
A good situation for Bolton in that you've got a guy who doesn't make contact a lot. But if Sosa can make contact because he's so difficult to double up, then you've got to like the White Sox chances of scoring a run. This is that nasty curveball, and I use nasty a lot. But if you're at the plate, you're thinking, boy, that was pretty nasty. I better lay off that pitch and try to fight something else.
Well, there's no way to hit it fair to begin with. It's going to be a strike if you swing either way. And back to the screen, 1-2.
And that's a good point, Bob, because it's so few people that can hit that ball and keep it fair. And I got the opportunity to work with one. Mattingly can hit that pitch somehow the inner half and keep that ball fair. It's amazing. And can drive that pitch. Not many guys can do that. I think Mark Grace, to a certain extent, especially with the fastball, can do that. I've seen him do it as well. But not many people can hit that breaking ball running in on you and keep it fair.
1-2 to Sosa. Breaking ball. Got in. And that's the second out of the inning. Both outs in this frame registered on strikeouts by Tom Bolton.
And this is one of those situations in which Bolton said, I'm going to keep throwing it until you hit it. And you better believe the next time Sosa's at the plate, he's going to see that pitch as well, especially with 2 strikes.
Now it'll take a 2-out hit by Corey Snyder, or a mistake by the Boston battery to get Chicago on the board. Snyder, another so-called power hitter that hasn't hit a home run this year. This would be a great time for the White Sox to see him get on the board. And the fastball is down low. Corey Snyder had 2 sacrifices in 5 years with the Cleveland Indians. This year he has 2 more sacrifices with Chicago than he does home runs. He's actually been called on to bunt a couple of times, has done so successfully.
What's a good team player? 6'3", power hitter, laying down the bunt. I'm sure they'd rather him lay it down somewhere else, like off that wall. But when you're struggling, as Corey has been the last 3 weeks or so, you're counting on to do the little things. And it's commendable that not only that you can do a little job like bunting for a guy who doesn't normally bunt, but he's played a pretty good first base as well.
Frank Thomas at third, Carlton Fisk at first, 2 outs, 3-0 count to Corey Snyder. And 4 consecutive bad ones. And the bases are loaded with 2 outs for Craig Graybeck.
Graybeck.
Now Bolton may have looked on the on-deck circle and saw the 5'6" Graybeck and thought, okay, who do I want to pitch to, Snyder or Graybeck? Of course, he probably doesn't realize that Graybeck has 6 hits and 14 at-bats. But he knows that Graybeck is not going to take him to the net very often, where Snyder, even though he hasn't a home run during the season, has the possibilities and the capabilities of doing so.
Graybeck, a good contact man at the plate. He's only fanned 1 of those 14 times. And the breaking ball is in there.
But as Bob said, Graybeck did take Nolan Ryan out the yard.
Isn't that funny? Last year that Graybeck had 1 home run, and a teammate of his had 1 home run as well, Ozzie Guillen, and that was also off Nolan Ryan. What is going on?
And some fan displaying their arm from the stands, throwing something that Bolton retrieved and threw off the field.
Looked like a golf ball.
I didn't know your drives were that long.
Not that straight. Red Sox 2-0 lead. Right back with the bases loaded, 2 down. Another breaking ball, and this one catches the outside corner. 0-2.
Now it's just a question of whether or not Bolton's going to waste a fastball and come back with a breaking ball. He can afford to throw one with the good parabola, except that there is a runner at third base. So Pena has to be aware of picking the ball. Pena is one of the best at digging balls out of the dirt. But at some point, the curveball is going to be the pitch of decision.
3 consecutive breaking balls. That one just missing.
Tried a backdoor one low on the outside part of the plate, and I believe it did catch the outside corner. Pena tried to frame it. Graybeck may have gotten a break.
And you saw Richie Garcia set up on the inside part of the plate, looking over the catcher's left shoulder. Got him that time. 3 swinging strike threes in the inning. 2 singles and a walk. White Sox have stranded 4. After 3.5, it's still 2-0 Boston.
Toronto Blue Jays have to be extremely happy with the acquisition of Joe Carter, and defensively as well tonight. Brian McRae out into the gap, but watch Joe Carter run it down, save a hit that would have been extra bases, come up with a grab, and continue with the 3-1 lead for the Blue Jays. Myers with a home run in the game right now. Get back to Bob and Billy.
Thank you, John Saunders. Joe Carter wearing those funny-looking orange glasses out in the outfield to cut down the glare up there. Billy, you and I were there over the weekend, and in those 2 new players, Carter and Alomar, seems like the Toronto fans have some players that are electrifying them for the first time in the last few years.
Well, they found out that Joe Carter can play all the outfield positions well, and Roberto Alomar, I still say that no one has better range in the American League now than he.
Bottom of the 4th inning here at Fenway. Jack Clark leads off for the Red Sox. Mike Greenwell and Tom Bernansky to follow. Clark awful against right-handed pitching this year, according to those numbers. And he couldn't catch up with the sharp Melito Perez breaking ball.
One of the reasons is that he's going to see a lot more breaking balls from right-handers. And he's not going to get the opportunity to get fastballs down the middle of the plate. Even that fastball had some movement. Looked like a cut fastball running away from him.
Jack Clark only 2 home runs and 7 RBIs since opening day. And he hit the game-winning grand slam at the Sky Dome in Toronto.
That's probably the last fastball he's seen.
Man, that one got him on a half swing. Clark is gone. Strikeout number 2 for Melito Perez.
9. Greenwell.
And if you want to feel what a split finger feels like, a fastball until right there. Oh, no. It looks like a fastball till here, and then it's too late. And Steve Palermo. Get out of here.
Jack Clark probably has as strong wrists as anybody in the game, but even he couldn't get the bat from crossing the plate in the hitting zone.
Yeah, I call that my adhesion swing, because you can hear the tendons and ligaments tearing your wrist.
Mike Greenwell pulled the ball his first time, grounded out to Scott Fletcher. And the count now 2-0. Melito Perez with a record of 1-2. Taking on the unbeaten 3-0 Tom Bolton tonight. Fastball down the middle, base hit right field. Not the pitch Perez wanted to throw on 2-0 maybe. As he made it awfully fat for Greenwell to pull.
Right fielder, Bernansky.
I tell you, Greenwell hits the most quiet .313 for career. Last year, the only year in which he hadn't hit over 300, and he hit .297 last year, and people talked about What a slow start. In fact, we were talking about what a slow start he got off to last year. And people have to be aware at Greenwell at first because the ankle feels good now. He's got those high-top shoes that Bob has commented on a few times this year, and he has 4 stolen bases for the Bo Sox. Hasn't been caught yet.
He's too short, though, of being in the top 10. Only a couple of Boston players down through the years have ever led the league in steals. Corey Snyder tried to apply a quick shoulder tag that time.
And I believe first base umpire Steve Palermo is telling Greenwell, you better not nonchalant it back next time because Palermo will ring you up in a hurry. He made that a little too close. Perez fairly quick to first base.
Good breaking ball to the outside corner.
In an almost impossible location. Impossible to hit.
You know, you almost have to bat Greenwell in between Clark and Brunansky, Billy. Right now, Jack Clark and Tom Brunansky having one of those all-or-nothing seasons. Clark hitting .232, Brunansky .240, with some power numbers, but they usually produce big or do nothing at all. And they really need a Greenwell who gets on base more often in between those two. Plus, it makes it right-hander, left-hander, right-hander for those late-game situations when you're facing opposing teams' bullpens. And
you have to realize that Clark, in his American League stint with the Yankees, hit only .242. So I'm not so sure just how much he is going to hit back in the American League. You know he's going to strike out a lot. He's going to hit his share of home runs and walk a lot. But for pure numbers, Fisk making a nice play, just how much do you expect out of Jack Clark? Is it more his reputation that's going to give the other hitters good pitches? Or is he indeed going to drive in some runs?
You hope a little bit of both if you're Joe Morgan.
Clark has had a season in which he has hit 25 homers or more, which with each of his previous 4 teams.
First baseman Corey Snyder, umpire Steve Palermo. The runner is Greenwell. Lito Perez with a count of 1-2 on Tom Brunansky. With 1 out, bottom of the 4th.
Perez is real quick to first. If he gets that throw any lower, they've got Greenwell picked off. It appears that Mike is going to run. Has a fairly aggressive lead at first. 3.5 to 4 steps. He doesn't have it now. Now he'll get a little more as Perez toes the rubber. Looks between his legs to see where Greenwell is. Looks like something his older brother would do.
Well, that's been the book on Melito and the Perez duo. Sort of flighty, they've been called. Their concentration has been questioned. No doubting the talent that is there. Great arms, both of them. Pasquale, of course, coming back from his arm problems. And throwing tonight against Kirk McCaskill as the Angels visit Yankee Stadium.
And McCaskill has been struggling of late. He could use a win. Of course, the Yankees could use some wins out of their starting pitchers.
Runners going. Long one to left field. It is off the top of the wall. Greenwell to third. Into second base is Brunansky. And the Red Sox are doing a great job tonight of making use of the interesting configuration of Fenway.
And I guess Brunansky thought it was out, and Greenwell rounded second. At some point, he could tell Rain's not used to playing left field, looking up at the wall, but Greenwell still stopped. I'm not sure why he did that. He knows he has played here long enough to know that if the outfielders are looking back, he can continue to run. But he stopped coming around second to see what was going to happen. I believe he had a chance of scoring, and Brunansky just did get into second base. I believe they all thought it was out.
Carlos Quintana in the top 5 in the league in hitting. Not a big power hitter, good contact man. White Sox do not play in. One out. And Perez gets one on the inside corner.
Looked like a front door slider. The White Sox infield is in. Halfway up the middle. Anything hit hard on one hop, they'll probably come home. It'll be interesting to see just how the Red Sox play it on the infield, whether or not they've got the contact play at third for a ball hit on the infield as Greenwell's at third, or will they make it go through? At this point, Greenwell already knows what Joe Morgan's decision is.
Ball in the dirt. Ball 1 strike. He drew a line from first to second and second to third. Corey Snyder at first, and Greg Rayback at third would be about 3 or 4 feet behind that line. And then Fletcher and Guillen up the middle would be about 15 feet behind that line. The Sox have been out hit 5-4, but lead 2-0. And Perez really slows down his work rate when men get on base.
And Snyder playing off the line at first. Joe Nosek arranging the White Sox defensively. He's one of their coaches' eyes in the sky. He's one of the best sign stealers in the major leagues. And
Carlton Fisk has been busy all night long.
I was going to say, and credit Fisk. As much as he has been beaten up and as much as Perez has had trouble getting that fork ball over the plate, Carlton keeps calling for it. Must be a masochist tonight.
Third, Bernansky at second with 1 out. 2-1 pitch and a foul tip.
And he gets it again. This time off the shoulder.
White Sox warming up their first reliever of the night, left-hander Wayne Edwards. Was nothing but hard stuff, low and outside, 3-2.
Well, he has the base open, and with Pena to follow, the 8th place hitter with catcher's speed, he still has the potential double play in order.
Red Sox with a chance to blow it open here in the 4th inning. Already up by 2. To the second baseman. Runners home. Now Fletcher comes home as Greenwell was forced off third base by Bernansky. He is out. Greenwell was trying to hold, but Tom Bernansky had gone 2/3 of the way to third base. 2 outs. Let's get an update from John Saunders.
They'll take you to Yankee Stadium. The Angels and the Yankees. Kirk McCaskill on to face Mel Hall. And Hall takes this one out to right field. His 3rd home run of the year, adding to the Yankee lead. Meantime, Pascual Perez, just coming back. First appearance since last April. Went 4 2/3 before he gave up a Junior Felix triple. Yankees lead at 2-0 in the 5th. Bob Miller.
Well, Mike Greenwell thrown out here, John, on that play, but you really can't fault Greenwell. Guy behind him, Bernansky, basically forced him off third base.
And I don't think Greenwell had the contact play. He was just running down the line maybe to cause a reaction, and he got it, but not the one he wanted.
Well, the important thing there is, no matter what happens, you want to keep it at least a man at third when that second out is made. And the Red Sox give up a second and third and end up with men at first and second.
I think Bernansky knew that Greenwell wasn't going by design, but he saw Greenwell take a couple of aggressive steps towards the plate, and he tried to follow and then ran him off. But you can't run the runner off, especially the one in front of you.
Pena on 1-0. He saw a pitch up and he was pumping.
Of course, I haven't heard anyone run a runner off behind him, so let me amend that statement. But you certainly have to be aware of what the guy in front of you is doing. And Brunansky anticipated or guessed, and he guessed incorrectly.
Lito Perez in less than 4 innings of work, nearing the 70 pitch mark.
Well, that play may have been the break he needed, that at bat against Quintana, to keep Perez in the game, to keep his club close, so that maybe in the latter innings, and you said earlier, Bob, how proficient the White Sox were coming from behind. If you can keep them there, then maybe the White Sox have a chance to come back and tie or take the lead.
1-1 pitch, base hit up the middle. Around third comes Brunansky. Lance Johnson's throw hits the side of the mound. And it's 3-0 Boston. Tony Pena on the throw goes to second.
And the ball hopped up well for Johnson. And it's a shame that his throw hit the side of the mound, because teams are going to run on him, because Lance has average strength in his left arm at best, and it bounces off. And good base running by Pena to pick up the low throw and go to second base on it and keep now 2 runners in scoring position as Sammy Ellis goes out to the mound to talk to Perez. And it's been somewhat of a Jekyll and Hyde season for Melito. We alluded to earlier just how well he pitched in this last outing. Unfortunately, David Wells pitched just a little bit better, but Perez struck out 11. And tonight he has really been struggling.
Well, he gave up only 2 hits in the first 3 innings, but now 3 here in the 4th. 1 run is in, 2 more men on base, and Luis Rivera, the hitter. The one bad mistake he made tonight was walking Tony Pena to lead off the 3rd. He came around to score on a 2-out double by Steve Lyons. Home runs are going to happen. Burks did that in the 1st inning. And that looks like just a big old hanging breaking ball up around the letters that Tony Pena hit into right center field. And watch the crazy hop.
If he gets it over the mound, he's got to play at the plate.
Luis Rivera's hit the ball as hard as anybody here tonight. Low line drive last inning that carried out to Tim Raines. Raines made an outstanding shoestring catch. Fastball rides high, 2-0.
And again, Perez has a base open, but you get the feeling with the way the Red Sox are hitting that he may not last another batter, Boggs being a left-handed hitter, and Wayne Edwards should be ready in the pen.
Two and one.
From time to time he has made some good pitches, but for the most part it's been that high fastball in which some of the right-handers have chased, and that cut fastball, the one of which Rivera just chased.
On a 2-0 count. The fastball brushes him off. And Melito Perez might be 1 pitch out of the strike zone away from the shower. Boggs on deck, a run in, 2 on, 2 out. Red Sox lead 3-0, bottom of the 4th. 3 of their 5 hits in this inning. Way outside, bases loaded. Only his 2nd walk of the night. We saw Jeff Torborg stay with Alex Fernandez on Friday night in Toronto when he walked the bases full late in the game. Will he do it again here in the early innings?
Hernandez in that game managed to have 8 walks and still keep his club in the game. Edwards is ready if needed. And maybe this is another gut check. Let's see what you mean.
For the skipper and the pitcher. Wade Boggs 0 for 2 with a couple of grounders stepping in. Up high.
And he wants to know where was that pitch. But when you haven't been around the plate and you're pitching to a guy who has 5 batting titles, a little difficult to get that one. I believe I said earlier that Boggs had 6. The 6th one was in AAA at Tauta.
Inside target. That's where the fastball is, but it's off the plate. 2-0. Wade Boggs obviously a great hitter, but he's always had a great on-base average as well. And that's because he has a great batting eye. Coming into this ball game, he had walked 25 times already this year. 6 intentional walks as well. He's got a fastball to work with and fouled it left side. Long 4th inning here for Melito Perez and the White Sox at Fenway Park in Boston. Ellis Burke's homer made it 1-0 in the first. A Steve Lyons double, 2-0 in the third. And a Tony Pena single, the 3rd run here in the 4th inning. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 2-1 the count to Wade Boggs. You don't see him get cheated of a swing very often, and Boggs is unhappy with himself.
Yeah, that pitch ate him all up. He may have been looking out over the plate because the previous pitch was a fastball running away from him, which he fouled back. Caught him looking away, and he cut a good fastball in on his hands. Really tied Boggs up.
Now it's 2-2. Perez overthrowing the ball. Fisk scrambling once more to keep the runners from advancing. Now with 2 outs, they'll all be moving on the 3-2 pitch.
Simply cannot get that forkball over. He has bounced no fewer than 12 of those tonight.
Runners moving, ball 4, and it's 4-0 Boston. Well, the last walk didn't do it, but this one will.
The second time in which Perez had a similar situation. Runners on base, 3-2 count to the hitter, and he throws him a forkball. This time Boggs would not chase. It was a pretty good pitch. One designed for the hitter to swing over it, but Boggs, one of the best at waiting on pitches, simply let it go, and the Red Sox add another run to their 4-0 lead.
The 27-year-old left-hander checks in for his 11th appearance of the year.
And out of Burbank, California, 6'5", 185-pounder, fastball, curveball, and he has been the setup man as well as pitching in long relief. I'm sure he's not liking this situation. I'd rather set up Bobby Thigpen. This is his 11th appearance. That ties him for 2nd on the staff, and he'll face a right-handed batter.
11.
And it'll be Nehring batting for Lyons. Lyons finishes his night with an RBI double, driving in the 2nd run of the 4 in which the Red Sox have.
Well, to Nehring, we documented earlier for you the terrible slump that he's in. 0 for his last 37. Actually played 3rd base on Sunday with Wade Boggs sitting out against a left-hander. Boggs hates to bat here on day games, especially against left-handed pitchers. You can't see it, but he has a new haircut with an H for hits sculptured into the back of that near crew cut that he got a couple days ago. Nehring, the starting shortstop at the beginning of the year, and he saw a pitch up and had a good rip.
And maybe this is a good situation for him, because when you're struggling, and certainly going 0 for 30 anything is struggling, sometimes as a starter you put too much pressure on yourself. You come in as a pinch hitter, and usually you only get 1 at bat, but he should get at least 3 at bats in this game, maybe 4. And maybe he can just throw a hit out there somewhere. All you have to do is just throw one out for the confidence. You can relax, not have to have reporters and writers ask you about it, and you can go about your business.
Hit it off the end of the bat. Graybeck charging. To first he goes, and the inning is over. Red Sox only get a couple out of it. They put together 3 hits and 2 walks and lead 4-0 after 4. Yes, it's a battle of division leaders. Bobby Bonilla leading the Pirates of the East. Dave Justice, last year's Rookie of the Year, leading the Braves of the West. Friday night, 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Friday Night Baseball with the Pirates and the Braves battling down south. Tim Naring stays in the game to play second base for the Red Sox as we move to the 5th inning here at Fenway. A guy named Sample will be down there for that game as well on Friday. Used to play a little ball down in that park.
You're right, a little.
Ozzie Guillen leads off. White Sox takes one low and outside. 5th inning underway. Tom Bolton now with a 4-run lead to work with. We'll see what kind of front runner he is against a hitter that's given him trouble in the past. Ozzie tonight has flied out to left. Fastball misses, 2-0.
And Pena was waving with his right hand. I'm not sure what that action was all about, unless he wanted Rich Garcia to anticipate the ball inside. And again, Bolton just a little bit too high. Guillen looking for a walk. He'll probably take 2 pitches if necessary.
Red Sox saying, don't walk him after we gave you another 2 runs. And he gets it in there, 3-1. We'll give you Merlito Perez's rather unimpressive line tonight in a moment. Ooh, nice big hop for Naring. That's the kind of hop you like when you just come in there defensively, 1 out. Tonight, Perez went 3 2/3. 4 runs on 5 hits. He walked 3, struck out a couple, and 2 of the walks hurt. One guy came around to score, Pena, and another walk to Boggs, forced to run home. 57 pitches in less than 4 innings of work tonight.
Perez never could get the fork ball over, and one of the best ones he threw, Burks deposited it into the screen. Fastball was working, but he had to go with something else. He kept it high, more of a chase pitch than a pitch for a strike. And speaking of chase pitches, how about that curveball? And the only time Bolton was in trouble, he got out of it with a curveball similar to that, only he threw it to the right-handed hitters, Sosa and Graybeck.
Tom Bolton is the guy who had thrown 57 pitches up to a moment ago. He's up around 60 now, but Perez, in less than 4 innings of work, threw 79 pitches at Fenway tonight.
And I'm sure the Sox are trying to figure out how he can be so on and then so off.
0-2 delivery. Over the mound and through as Lance Johnson sneaks a single to center.
30.
White Sox have their 6th base hit of the game. They've out-hit the Red Sox 6-5.
And that was almost a gift, being ahead of the count and throw him a fastball that he can get the bat on. Bolton, who is 6'3", got up in the air, but not enough to flag down that hit.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the defensive positioning of the pitcher. Ball was just too tall for him. Johnson 4 steals without being caught this year. Although being down 4-0 at Fenway, you hate to have a guy thrown out and then the next guy hit one into the screen, which Tim Raines certainly can do.
And being 4 for 4 is a good sign for Johnson, who led the AL in caught stealings last year with 22.
Yeah, not all good runners are good stealers.
And just because you have a bad year doesn't mean you can't turn it around. Hence Delino DeShields. He was thrown out 22 times last year with Montreal. A lot of those, I'm sure, because he was a rookie and wasn't getting the benefit of the call at second base.
They've got Johnson picked off. Quintana to Rivera for the out. That really hurts when you're down by 4 in this ballpark. Lance Johnson, even if he steals second, isn't going to tie the game for you. And that's got to make Jeff Torborg a little angry.
Well, I get the feeling this is part of Torborg's philosophy, because otherwise you'd give him a sign not to go. So evidently he's on his own as he talks it over with Sosa, feeling that Bolton possibly balked.
1 ball, 1 strike.
But it's tough when you're running from first to second yelling balk. The first base umpire doesn't hear you.
I wonder if the young Johnson may have missed a sign there. Whether you're on a youth movement or not, down by 4 at Fenway Park, that's just not good baseball. Rains on 2-1. Caught the outside corner, and Tim wants to know how.
His first at bat, Garcia called a pitch similarly on the outside corner. But getting back to that base running mistake, I still get the feeling that because there is a sign, most clubs will have a sign that'll say don't go anywhere. And unless that was flashed, he's more or less on his own. Now maybe Torborg wanted him to use his own discretion. Torborg, with a master's degree from Rutgers University, probably figured that everybody else was smart enough or intuitive enough to know not to run in that situation.
Here's the 3-2 to Raines. Breaking ball, got in. Strikeout number 4 by Bolton. All 4 of those in the last 2 innings. Halfway through, Red Sox lead 4-zip. ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball from Fenway Park in Boston. Red Sox lead it 4-0, even though they've been out hit. Ellis Burks will lead off. He's one of the guys who's chipped in with the long ball this evening. Back in the first inning, Ellis hit his 2nd of the year, drove home his 8th run with a fly ball into the screen.
And Burks, with his first All-Star selection last year, though he wasn't able to play due to a pulled hamstring, also received his first Gold Glove last year, so it was a good year all around for Ellis.
Well hit into the seats, left field corner.
A guy who grew up watching me play and you broadcast. Out of
Burks, out of the Metroplex down in Texas. Now what's Lyons doing?
I think he has found his niche, and he's going to work at it year after year.
They let him play almost 4 innings today. Fletcher charging, big hop, and on to Snyder. 1 out. Let's get it back to John Saunders.
So great defense under the Sky Dome in Toronto here. Mark Gubicza to Mookie Wilson. Watch Brian McRae. Come on, leap, roll, and come up with the ball. Just the same, Gubicza now left the game down 3-1 in the 6th. Get back to Bob and Bill.
You will be number 1 out there, Brian, for a long time. Willie Wilson, the speedster of years past. They have a new one now, and that's a good ball game defensively. We saw a great play from Joe Carter earlier tonight. Jack Clark is up for the Red Sox. He's happy to see a left-hander out there. Remember those numbers from last at bat?
And the ball coming into him, so Jack won't have to chase any sliders away. He may have to chase a curveball in, but everything coming in. And Jack hits most of his home runs from left center to the foul pole and left.
ball, tails outside. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Lifetime 270 hitter. Hit well in the National League, 273. But as I said earlier, I wonder just how high he's going to hit in the American League, because they're not going to challenge him quite as much. In the National League, you can't afford to have base runners on as much.
Well, one thing that hasn't changed from league to league, how well he hits left-handers, how little he hits right-handers. On the outside corner, Jack Clark is gone, but John Saunders is back.
And back with some more great defense. The Braves and the Cubs. Mark Gray sends it out to left field, drops in there for the base hit. Lonnie Smith chasing after it, gets it into Rafael Belliard as Ryan Sandberg rounds third. Watch Mike Heath block the plate. His foot won't allow Sandbergs to get to the plate. As a result, he's out, and then Heath drives in the run to give them the 1-0 lead. Back to Bob and Bill.
Hey, that's championship baseball by a team in first place, Atlanta. First pitch swinging, Greenwell grounds to Fletcher, and the Boston 5th inning is very brief and very easy. 4 in a row for Wayne Edwards after 5. Red Sox over the White Sox, 4-0. Tom Bolton cruising. Hasn't really been a pleasure cruise, though. He's been roughed up a bit for 6 hits on 66 pitches through 5, but he has a 4-run lead. Scott Fletcher, Frank Thomas, Carlton Fisk for the White Sox in the 6th inning. Bob Carpenter with Billy Sample at Fenway Park. As the Red Sox try to keep pace with the Blue Jays, who, as John Saunders told you, are still leading in the middle innings at the Chicago. Teams are tied atop the American League East. Although Boston's played 4 more games, they have 2 more wins and 2 more losses than the Red Sox. Both those clubs 2.5 up on Detroit. Surprising Tigers not playing at the moment because it's raining in Texas tonight. Fletcher got jammed again, just like he did that last time up. He's seeing nothing but knuckle on the knuckle breaking balls, you might call them, from Tom Bolton.
Threw him a nasty 2-strike slider last time. This one looked more like a curveball. But as you mentioned earlier, he has given up 6 hits. The only time he was really close to surrendering a run was in the 4th inning, in which he had the bases loaded with 2 out and recorded a strikeout. And again, that curveball, this time he pulls it into the White Sox dugout. He may go away again with a fastball, but for the most part, as Joey Core getting high fives from his teammates, Bolton has gotten the outs he is needed on the curveball.
And that pitch really accentuated against Fletcher, who's a hitter that dives in and oftentimes jams himself. Turn that one over on him. Strikeout number 5. This is really interesting, Billy. After striking out no one through 3 innings, Tom Bolton now has retired on strikes 5 of the last 7 that he has retired.
Well, it looked like when he needed a pitch, he went to the curveball and has recorded 4 of his 5 strikeouts on a curveball. That pitch got him out of trouble. And when he gets 2 strikes on somebody, that's going to be the pitch he's going to.
Thomas looks one to left field. Greenwell to the track to get it. Frank Thomas making a bid for his 3rd consecutive hit. Greenwell played it well.
And what happens is you've become so conditioned to the curveball that even though Thomas was looking for a fastball, really extended well, got it off the end of the bat a little bit, in the back of your mind, all you've seen is curveballs. So it's a little hard to go up there and say, okay, I'm going to sit fastball, and Thomas knows that.
Carlton Fisk singled his last time after grounding out to Boggs. This is his 99th at bat of the year. Still looking for that first home run. Good fastball at the knees. Carlton has 5 extra base hits, all doubles of his 29 hits this season.
And I beg your pardon, Bolton has recorded all 5 of his strikeouts on curveballs. Fletcher, Sosa, and Graybeck all in the 4th inning, in which he had runners in scoring position. Rains to end the 5th, and Fletcher an out ago.
Right-hand hitters all. Breaking ball bounces right in front of the plate. 1 ball, 1 strike. To the man of 4 decades, Carlton Fisk. His image of pointing that line drive fair against the Reds in '75 will live on videotape forever, and in the minds of Red Sox fans, probably a few Reds fans as well, in that dramatic World Series.
And Harry Cole, the great director, caught that shot by accident.
Yeah, but the great ones always have the breaks, don't they? 1 ball, 2 strikes. And the fastball misses. Count goes even, 2-2.
The outfield plays Carlton a little bit to pull, but he's been looking for that ball out over the plate for the last week or so, and the pitch was out over the plate. But even if you hit that curveball, the way Bolton takes speed off of it, you're probably going to end up pulling him, and that's why Burks, the center fielder, is about 4 steps to the left of the second base back.
Here's the 3-2 pitch. Fastball well outside. And the second walk issued by Tom Bolton tonight.
25. Sammy Sosa. Right field.
Bolton ahead in the count, lost Fisk. And Sammy Sosa will be the hitter.
Let's see if Sosa will sit on a curveball, because at some point in this at bat, he's going to see 1, 2, or 15 of them.
Well, he may have to be sitting real deep to get one he can hit fair. Fastball tails low and outside.
That's, of course, if Bolton can get ahead of the count. But he may throw him that courtesy curveball anyway.
There's the plate. Ball 2.
Another pitch like that, and Pena is going to go out to the mound and tell Bolton where it is. A lot of those ground outs, because you have a tendency to swing over top of the curveball.
Base hit left field. Sosa hit the ball hard on a 2-0 pitch, and the White Sox are within a runner of having the tying run at the plate. It's always a factor you have to keep in mind at Fenway Park. It'll be Corey Snyder up after this base hit.
And Pena is going out to the mound, and just to show you what I know, he did not see a curveball that at bat. 3 fastballs, the third one finding the middle of the plate, and he strokes it to left for a base hit.
Might be the problem.
Looks like Joe Hesketh up in the bullpen for the Red Sox.
One of 2 left-handers, Tony Fawcett the other. Corey Snyder hit into a double play and walked 0 for 1. Big spot for him. This would be a great time for him to break out of his slump. Got a fastball, pulled it to the shortstop. Rivera to Neri, and the White Sox are gone in the 6th. They strand 2. They've left a half dozen, and after 5 1/2. Chicago out hitting Boston 7-5, but down by 4. To a cool evening at Fenway. ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball. Bob Carpenter with Billy Sample alongside. Into the bottom of the 6th we go, where Tom Bernansky will lead off for Boston. Out hit, but leading by 4. Bernansky, Quintana, and Pena for Boston against Wayne Edwards in relief of Melito Perez. Fastball at the knees, outside corner. Bernansky doubled last time. Came around to score eventually on Wade Boggs' walk with the bases loaded. This time he goes the other way, down the line. On the track, off the wall. It'll be a couple triple for Brunansky, leading off the 6th inning. That's about the last place you expect Brunansky to hit the ball in this park.
Takes that big swing and it goes off. Actually muscles it a little bit. Sosa, who has good speed, and Sammy makes a nice play because this has a chance to hockey rink around the corner. He runs it down before he gets a good kick, and Bruno has a double leading off for the Red Sox.
And a nice job of restraint by the fan in the green windbreaker not to grab that ball and be immediately kicked out of the ballpark. He wanted to stick around to see if Bruno would score. Quintana, the hitter, with nobody out. Hit number 6 for Boston. No daylight between Guillen and the runners, so no throw from Edwards.
And I've seen more players go back into the bases, not only hard but late, as Bruno does there. But Edwards now has shown his move to Brunansky, in which he doesn't spin around the conventional way. He goes back from his left foot and wheels around counterclockwise.
Quintana failing to do his job by hitting it to the shortstop. Brunansky stays at second with 1 out.
And it's a funny game because you have a guy like Quintana who goes to the off-field so well. And you know he's trying to do the job, but sometimes the eye-hand coordination isn't what you'd like for it to be.
Tony Pena will step in. Tony's done a little bit of everything. Walked, stole a base, and scored in the 3rd, and then drove a run home with an RBI single in that 2-run 4th inning.
And he's the kind of guy that's going to play 145 games a year behind the plate. Doesn't give John Marzano much chance behind the plate, who formerly was a starter with the Red Sox.
Number 1 in the league last year with 142. Runner-up for the Gold Glove Award, and handled a staff that was number 1 in the league in the starting pitching ranks. Right now the Red Sox with a 3.16 ERA coming in, number 1 in the major leagues.
Not something you associate with a Boston team.
Doesn't hurt to have a Clemens around. Low and away, 2-0. By the way, the Red Sox, interesting stat on their pitching staff. This is their 30th game of the year. In the previous 29, they've held the opposition to 2 runs or less 13 of those 29 times. Almost half the time they've given up 2 runs, 1 or 0. 2-1 as he caught the outside corner.
And with the offense that they can generate, it's no reason they're tied for first place.
And the White Sox, meanwhile, a team that has to score a lot of runs to win. Scoreless through 6 here tonight. When they score 4, they're almost unbeatable. When they score less than 4, they have little chance of winning, statistically, through the first month and a half of the year. 2-1 pitch to Pena. Runner going off second, and Tony fouled it back with Tom Brunansky moving on to 3rd.
And that's not a bad play. Bruno had a good jump going from 2nd to 3rd. And in this ballpark, if you can get that 5th run, he's got a good lead and he's moving. And that's important if you're anybody other than Ricky Henderson, to be moving towards the base you're stealing going from 2nd to 3rd.
You always hear announcers talking about the fact that teams like to be up by 5 runs so the grand slam can't tie them. Probably 2 parks in the big leagues where that comes into play more than anywhere else. Wrigley Field with the wind blowing out, and here at Fenway because of the cozy left field. So a 5-run lead is very important here. Count to Pena has gone to 2-2.
And of course, those are the 2 smallest parks attendance-wise as well. Dimensionally small and attendance-wise small.
but 2 national landmarks as well.
And in spite of the small park, the Red Sox were 4th in home attendance last year, behind Toronto, Oakland, and Anaheim.
Time asked by Pena, given by Garcia. Edwards did not see that time was out until he looked home ready to deliver.
Well, if you take too long on the mound, you can't fault the hitter for asking for time.
And the count goes full, 3-2.
Not a bad pitch after seeing a lot of curveballs and changeups to try to bust him in with a fastball. That off the plate just a little bit. If Pena had tried to swing, it probably would have broken his bat and would have been a weak ground to the right side. As it is, a play, Tony, to the off field. He does go that way well, sometimes even if he has a pull swing.
And Tony, not one to take the walk very often, was swinging at an outside pitch with the count full.
What do you say, thou shall not pass?
Tony Pena from the Dominican Republic, living by that old adage that you don't get off the island by taking walks. You swing your way to the big leagues. He's really turned things around after that 179 April. Red Sox played okay that month without his bat. And now they've won 10 out of 14 with him hitting well. Has to take the walk on that one. Bernansky thought about advancing, stays at second. Runners at first and second with 1 out, and Luis Rivera will be the hitter.
Rivera. Rivera.
And as you said, the only place you can walk from the Dominican Republic is to Haiti, and I'm sure he doesn't want to walk there.
He'd rather hit baseballs than make them. Fenway Park in Boston, ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball. Bottom of the 6th inning. Red Sox leading by 4, trying to add to that with 2 aboard, 1 out, and Luis Rivera facing Wayne Edwards. Edwards had retired 4 in a row before giving up the Bernansky double. Quintana's grounder and then the walk to Pena.
And how easy has it been for Rivera to have been given a job? Brian Draymond warming up in the White Sox bullpen, and still to be sharp, and not only that, but to be hitting 277 at present. Had been relegated to a backup role and now finds himself starting again.
Fastball tails to the outside corner, 0-2.
Well, that's the same situation Rivera had with the Expos. Moved out of the shortstop position. Spike Owen eventually playing shortstop with Montreal.
Rivera probably will not hit the 280s all year long. Last year at 118 games, he hit only 225, but he's got some pop in his bat. He hit 7 homers, drove home 45. Edwards continues to work slowly, so Rivera gets time.
Well, if you're not going to hit for an average as the 9th place hitter, it's nice to be able to drive in some runs. 7 homers, not a bad number in a little over 340 at bats.
Here's the 1-2, and he could not make contact. Got a piece of it. Fisk held on. 2 outs and back to John Saunders.
Braves adding to their lead at Chicago was 1-0 when Dave Justice rips this one out to right field. Jeff Treadway, who was on second, comes in to score. The Atlanta Braves pad the lead to 2-0. That's where it stands now in the 6th inning at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Let's get it back to Bob and Billy.
Thanks, John. Braves trying to go 5 over 500. They led the Dodgers by a game. San Diego and Cincinnati by 2 at the start of the night, and will feature Braves and the Pirates on ESPN Friday night from Atlanta Fulton County Stadium at 7:30 Eastern Time. Our doubleheader game tonight coming up a little later will send us over to the National League with the Mets at San Diego. Mets are in the race right behind the Pirates, 2 games back in the East. Wade Boggs watches as Edwards almost throws one at the photographers on the first base side.
Well, that's a timing play, but Pena anticipated the play, and because he got back to the base so quickly, Snyder wasn't able to come around him and get in front of the bag and make a tag. Lucky enough to keep it from going down the right field line. And they're getting tricky trying to pick off the back runner.
Fastball in there to Boggs. Wade 0 for 2 with a couple of grounders, but he did pick up his 12th RBI 2 innings ago with a bases loaded walk.
Tell you what kind of career Boggs has had. His .302 average last year dropped his overall average 6 points to .346. Currently the 5th highest average in baseball history, behind Cobb, Rogers Hornsby, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and Lefty O'Doul. Defensively, they play Boggs to the off field. They give him quite a bit of room in center field, right center field, and down the right field line.
A bit low. Boggs with that good batting eye, walked his 26th time of the year 2 innings ago. And on base average is so important because he's not a fast leadoff man. Surprisingly low with runners at second and or third this year, that mark of 143. But that really means little so early in the season. This one up and in, 3-1. And when the count goes to 3-1, Boggs becomes about a 400 hitter. Speaking of 400, last year, just to wrap up your point, Billy, about the season he had that was a so-called off year. First time ever he had been under 400 in on-base percentage. 447 coming into this game. Pulls it. Short hop. Snyder has it. And the Red Sox are gone in the 6th. They strand a couple. They've left 6. So has Chicago. After 6. 4-0 Boston. Free agent George Bell from Toronto to the Cubs. He'll lead the Cubs into Philly on Sunday night on ESPN. He's their leader in homers and RBIs, while the Phillies offense has been boosted by a resurgent Dale Murphy, who's hit a half-dozen homers already this year. 8 o'clock Eastern Time, Sunday night, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball with John Miller and Joe Morgan from the Vet in Philly. Top of the 7th here at Fenway in Boston. Craig Graybeck, Ozzie Guillen, and Lance Johnson for the White Sox on the short end of a 4-0 score. Bob Carpenter with Billy Semple on ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball. First game of our doubleheader, Mets and the Padres coming up later.
Do you notice how some of those great home run hitters seem to hit in good parks for home run hitters? Murphy going from Atlanta to Philadelphia. Now Murphy's going to hit his 400+ home runs anywhere. Mike Schmidt, all those years in Philadelphia at the Vet where the ball carries.
Yep. Graybeck to Boggs. He'd love to win a Gold Glove Sunday. Let's send it back to our stalwart at the hot corner. Here's John Saunders.
Ready and waiting, the Brewers and the Twins. Chili Davis probably has the hottest stick going right now as far as the long ball. 3rd home run in the last 2 games, 8th in the year, and this one is way back. Chili with a 2-run shot is Ken Herbeck. Circles as well. 2-hitter for Morris through 6. Let's get back to you.
All right, John, thanks. Ozzie Guillen is next. Brewers are having some pitching problems. Jamie Navarro throwing for them today, but they picked up Dave LaPointe and signed him to a AAA contract. He'll be with that Denver ball club trying to make his way back to the big leagues. they have really had some injuries to their starting pitching the last couple of seasons.
How about the last 4 or 5? They never seem to have a week where someone's not on the disabled list.
Yeah, then you throw in a beaten-up Molitor, who never has been able to make it through a whole year. The bad injury 2 years ago to Jimmy Gantner really changed the face of that ball club. Right side, Neri throws out Guillen. 2 grounders, 2 outs, and Bolton is cruising.
1. Johnson. Get up here. Johnson.
There's the H on the back of Nering's new haircut.
As in, I want a HIT. Going through slumps will make you do a lot of crazy things.
I hope he doesn't have to change that to a C for contact, because he hasn't gotten any hits. Down to the number 9 man, Lance Johnson. Singled his last time, picked off. 1 for 2. Breaking ball, and grabbing it is Rivera. A quick 7th, 1-2-3. 7th inning stretch time at Fenway Park in Boston. Red Sox lead it 4-zip. ESPN's Tuesday Night Baseball from cool and breezy Fenway tonight. And the Red Sox scored early, scored often, lead 4-0 into the bottom of the 7th inning. No problem with the electricity tonight after last night's 59-minute blackout. Only thing that's gone out since then, the Chicago offense. Scoreless on 7 hits. Tim Nering will lead off for the Red Sox, looking to break that 0 for 38. As the pinch hitter back in the 4th, grounded out to Craig Graybeck at 3rd base.
And Graybeck is giving him a lot of room. If he could get a bunt down the 3rd base side, he's got a hit.
Nice job to lay off that breaking ball. Graybeck last year made contact most of the time. 15 strikeouts, 85 at bats. This year, 15 strikeouts in his first 54 at bats. So almost 1 out of every 3 times up, he is striking out.
And they've had time to adjust to him after his call-up last year. I talked about him laying down a bunt. But the way he's going, if he laid a perfect bunt down, Graybeck would pick him and throw him out by a half step.
Some of his teammates have been supporting him with special looks around their rally caps. Lyons one of those. And he'll get a chance to reach first base on the walk, drawing some Bronx cheers here in Boston. Second walk issued by Wayne Edwards.
I didn't think the Red Sox fans were that hard. But one thing I have noticed in the times I've seen Nering play, in spite of going through a streak like this, he has run out every ground ball. And sometimes that's tough because you anticipate getting the bat head out, you get jammed, you hit a weak ground ball somewhere. And I know you don't feel like running at times, but he has hustled every ball out and has taken this about as well as it could be taken.
Was Burks. Hard hit left field in front of Tim Raines. Red Sox have something going with the first 2 men aboard in the 7th. And a matchup that Jeff Torborg can't like a whole lot here, with Edwards coming up against Jack Clark.
Burks, a good low ball hitter, at least tonight. His home run, a low fork ball, and this, a low fastball, drills it into left field. And Jeff Torborg going out to the mound. Bob has told you just how good Wayne Edwards is, or I should say Jack Clark is, against left-handers. And I'm sure he's going to bring in Draymond. Brian Draymond has been throwing for a while in the bullpen. And Torborg either is going to talk to Edwards or he wants more time. That looks like the I want more time. I'm going to kick around the mound a little bit. Wait for Rich Garcia to come out and get me.
Rich Garcia's down at the on-deck circle talking with Mike Greenwell. While we're waiting for a new pitcher, maybe, here's John Saunders.
Well, the world champions are at the 500 mark, trying to scratch above it tonight. Billy Hatcher fights this one off his fist. It just drops in there. That's a double as Hal Morris comes in to score, making it a 1-0. Mariano Duncan has driven in a run, as is Hal Morris. It's now 3-0 in the 5th inning. Back to Bob and Billy.
Thanks, John. As we leave St. Louis, Wayne Edwards leaves the field here at Fenway. Brian Draymond coming on for the White Sox. Red Sox lead 4-0, looking for more in the 7th. Red Sox lead at 4-0, bottom of the 7th, and Brian Draymond trying to come back from a couple of rough early season starts, or rather appearances at least, trying to bring that 7.71 ERA down as he appears in his 10th game tonight.
24 years old, 6'3", 205-pounder from Kenton, Kentucky. A power pitcher, hard fastball, hard slider, and he'll try to keep the White Sox in the game as Jack Clark approaches the plate. Runners at first and second, and nobody out.
Jack Clark hitless tonight. The last 2 times out on strikes. And that's why the move was made. No way Jeff Torborg wanted Wayne Edwards throwing against Jack Clark, who in the National League last year did just about the same thing. Hit 377 over the entire season against lefties. Those kind of numbers get around in a hurry when managers are thinking about guys they're going to be facing. 209 against lefties last year. Excuse me, against right-handers last year. And obviously the number has gone down even further as he returns to the American League.
And Fisk tried to jam him inside with a fastball, since Draymond has a good one.
You know, Billy, as we look back on opening day, it's what makes that so amazing that Dave Stieb proved one to Jack Clark ahead in the count with the bases loaded on opening day. A right-hander rocked for a Jack Clark grand slam at the Sky Dome.
On an 0-2 pitch.
Might be the last type of success he has against a right-hander in that situation the rest of the season. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Especially against a guy like Steve, who has an outstanding slider and will throw it on all counts. But on that particular pitch, that Jack Clark home run on opening day, Steve said he was trying to waste that 0-2 pitch, a turnover fastball, and he turned it over about knee-high. And it got out in a hurry.
That ball would have hit about halfway up the Green Monster here, carried into the seats in Toronto. 1-2. Nobody out. Red Sox trying to add to their 4-run lead.
Jack will see a lot of that. Fastball off the plate to set up the breaking ball. As patient as Clark is, he'll really have to be patient to be successful in the American League, because he's just not going to get a lot of fastballs in the hitting zone.
Chops one to third. Charging is Graybeck to second for 1, and going after Scott Fletcher was Ellis Burks to prevent the relay. So runners will be at the corners with 1 down.
And Clark got down the line fast. Not only did Burks take out Fletcher at second, but for a guy with a lot of ankle problems, Clark really hustled down the line and got down there in good fashion. Nice play by Graybeck. Coming in, fielding a short hop, and going the opposite direction and throwing a strike to Fletcher at second.
You know, that was interesting. Graybeck had to take an extra step before he threw so that he could get out of the way of the runner coming toward third to make his throw. Tim Naring coming his way. Mike Greenwell with the RBI opportunity now, with runners at first and third, 1 out. And he's popped up on the infield. Graybeck looking for the foul ball. 2 down. The
Red Sox have had a couple of opportunities in the last couple of innings to add to their 4-run lead. The White Sox have held them there. And of course, the Red Sox have to remember what happened last night. Kept the game just close enough, and the White Sox, with 2 outs, ended up scoring a run to tie it on a Matt Murillo home run before winning it in 10 innings.
Tom Bernansky with a pair of doubles tonight. Lines one hard, but Ozzie Guillen goes up to grab it. Red Sox strand 2 more. They've left 8, but they've plated 4. On to the 8th we go. Red Sox still lead 4-0.
ESPN Major League Baseball is brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By the people of UPS, now offering next-day air delivery on Saturday. And by Monroe Shocks and Struts. Monroe, your safety could depend on it.
Hits are even at 7, but the runs aren't. Boston by 4. 8th inning about to get underway as Tom Bolton continues to move on with a possible shutout. Tim Raines leads off for Chicago and looks at a fastball low and away. Raines 0 for 3 tonight with 2 grounders and a strikeout. This fastball catches the inside corner.
And he has been working those corners on Raines as Jeff Gray warms in the Red Sox bullpen. Has thrown fastballs on the outside corner, that time catching a fastball in, and he'll mix in a couple of curveballs as well.
Little chopper off the fist. Boggs charges. A big hop and throws him out. 1 down. This copyrighted broadcast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be rebroadcast or retransmitted in any form without the expressed written consent of Major League Baseball.
And with that at bat, Raines, who came into the season with a 3.01 lifetime average, has dropped to 2.99. We are up to date.
But the White Sox offense is not. This is a team that put a few runs on the board last night when they got a second life in the 9th inning. Scott Fletcher takes a fastball at the knees outside corner. 4 games at the Sky Dome over the weekend. White Sox, in losing 3 of those, hit only .204. And this will be the 11th consecutive game that the opposing team has thrown a quality start at Chicago. And what that means is 6+ innings, 3 runs or less in that time. Clemens did it last night until the bullpen collapsed late. And Tom Bolton has done it again. You know, that's a stat I really hadn't heard of very much, Billy. Quality starts against. It says something about your offense when everybody, 11 consecutive, throws a quality start against your lineup.
And the White Sox didn't have a great offense last year. They were 9th in the league. This year currently 10th. But they really scratched out a lot of victories, winning a lot of 1-run games, a lot of 4-2, 5-3 games. And sometimes that second time around, those chances to win aren't simply there, and teams have adjusted to you somewhat. And if you falter at all in any other area, then it really starts to show. But as we talk about the lack of offense, the White Sox are still playing over 500.
15-13 coming into the game tonight, and very much in the race in the AL West, just 2 back of Oakland. Seattle a game and a half back. That division pretty tightly bunched with Minnesota and California 2.5 back at the start of the night. Texas in 6th place, but just 3.5 back. And the Royals trying to get out of their injury problems, 6 back. Red Sox of Joe Morgan and company tied with Toronto. The Jays still leading ahead of the late innings at the Sky Dome, ahead of those Royals, 4-1.
And Joe Morgan and Bill Fisher have to be excited about watching Tom Bolton come out of the bullpen and put up yet another quality start. Jeff Torborg looking to see what moves he can make with his lineup in case Morgan and Fisher bring in Jeff Gray, who has been warming and is ready in the White Sox, or in the Red Sox pen rather, if needed.
Fletcher chops one on 2 hops to Rivera. 2 down on a couple of easy ground balls.
Yeah, they're not even taking good swings. Nothing really has been hit hard. Occasionally somebody will hit a line drive, but for the most part all those ground ball outs have been topped.
Number 35.
And Jeff Torborg really cannot make any moves unless his team gets back in it. Against a right-hander like Gray or Reardon, if the game was on the line, Jeff would have some moves to make with the likes of Matt Marullo, Robin Ventura, Dan Pasqua on the bench, all left-handed hitters, and switch hitter / pinch runner Joey Cora, who can make some things happen. But down by 4, not a whole lot you can do. You can't fault Frank Thomas, though. He's hit the ball well tonight. Even his out 2 innings ago was a hot line drive that Greenwell snagged near the track in left field.
I'm not sure if Joe Morgan would want to bring in a right-hander to force Torborg to make the moves to some of his power, especially off the bat of Dan Pasqua.
On the other hand, Boston only has 1 non-Reardon save this year, and that belongs to the guy who's warming up right now, Jeff Gray. Lefties just don't close games in Boston these days, unless they're the starter. And that's something that Bolton never has done, at least from a shutout standpoint. He did combine on a couple of 1-0 shutouts last year with help from Jeff Reardon and company. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Frank Thomas. Breaking ball, hit hard again, but 1 hop to Rivera. White Sox gone. 1, 2, 3. 7 straight for Bolton now. To the bottom of the 8th we go. Boston at home leading Chicago 4-0. The story from Fenway Park tonight as the Sox lead 4-0 in the 8th. Melito Perez threw 79 pitches, didn't even last 4 innings. Tom Bolton about that same number, and he's already into the 8th inning. Ellis Burks with a solo shot in the 1st, and Tom Bernansky with a couple of doubles. His 7th and 8th of the year have helped the Boston offense. Even though the hits are even at 7, the home team leads by 4. Carlos Quintana, Tony Pena, Luis Rivera for the Red Sox in the 8th.
One of the differences in the hits, though, all 7 of the White Sox hits have been singles.
Backing up, Graybeck, long throw, offline, and it pulls Corey Snyder off the bag. Could Quintana use that to keep his hitting streak alive?
They're usually generous here at Fenway Park, but I'm not sure if they're going to give Quintana a hit on this one, though. Graybeck had a difficult play, having to back up on the short hop. Rights himself, though, and here a throw on line gets Quintana.
They have given an error on Graybeck for pulling Snyder off the bag, so Quintana, who came in with a 7-game hitting streak, make it an 8-game streak. Looks like he'll have that ended. E5. Tony Pena with a perfect night going. And that one back to the screen. Quintana will trot to second base.
They'll probably score that a wild pitch, but I think that Fisk may have been fooled by the movement on that pitch. Good sinker running in on Pena. I've got to score that a pass ball.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Runner at second base on the pass ball. Nobody out. Out of 1-0 to Pena. Will the free swinging Tony move that runner over to third, or will he be hacking somewhere? I think we have our answer. It's strike 1.
Well, he's going to try to move him to third and home if possible. But Pena, just like Quintana, good at going to the opposite field. A couple of the few Red Sox right-handers that go to the off-field well, most of them are pull hitters like Brunansky or Clark.
Pena bunting. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
And trying to give himself up, and that was his reward. Now he's thinking, I should have tried to move the runner over. I had a pitch to do it. Difficult, though, because Draymond's fastball really runs in on right-handed. If you start out, if you get out there too far and you're not quick enough inside, he's going to catch some thumbs. The Red Sox have had a few opportunities to put that 5th run on the board, and up to this point have failed to do so.
And a sinker hit to the shortstop. Guillen waves at Quintana, throws out Pena. Runner stays at second, 1 out.
And Ozzie has a certain amount of flair even when he's recording a routine out. Pena tried to bring the hands in to hit the inner half of the ball, but Draymond's ball runs just too sharply in on the right-handed hitter, and Guillen is there to record the out.
Ozzie Guillen, Gold Glove a year ago at shortstop for the White Sox. Made only 19 errors all year. White Sox infield last year really knocked their error total down from the year before. 27 less than in '89, and that reflects what you talked about earlier, Billy. They didn't always hit their way to wins. They played defense, got timely pitching. Little flare into right center. Lance Johnson wants it, 2 down. And some speed in the outfield doesn't hurt either.
Actually, where their errors come into play is in the outfield. But they're so aggressive in the outfield that it's hard to fault them. Sosa trying to make a play last night, picked up an error. Johnson will pick up a few errors.
I think I said Ozzie had 19 errors. He had 17 last year. For a guy who handles that many chances.
Yeah, he's going to get some errors because he has range to make some plays.
And Wade Boggs' 6-game hitting streak will evidently come to an end. They will walk him intentionally. This happened twice last night. He walked a run home earlier. This will be the first walk issued by Ryan Draymond.
But we were talking about the errors from the White Sox. The errors in the outfield, they had 36 errors last year in the outfield. At some point, you got to find that proper balance between aggression and smart play. In fact, that tied for the major league lead with the Cardinals. But a lot of that was from Willie McGee, who had an uncharacteristic 16 errors in center field. And he wasn't there all year.
Runners at first and second now, 2 outs, and another chance for Tim Nehring to break that long offer that has spanned 38 at bats. He did walk his last time. Ted Williams told him on Sunday during Ted Williams Day here, just relax. I like what I've seen of you. Ted must have a satellite dish down there in the Florida Keys. Told Nehring to hang in there because this happens to every hitter. And when the splendid Splinter tells you he likes your swing, that means something, because he is a real student of the science of hitting.
I think Ted Williams did go 1 for 6 once.
2-0 as Nehring had that one zip right past his belt buckle. Well, if Nehring goes 0 for 6 and makes it 44 in a row, he'll get a letter from the president. Nixon once wrote Luis Aparicio a letter when he went 0 for 44. So Tim can look forward to that. but I'm sure he'd like to avoid such communication. 2 balls, no strikes. He got fisted. Having to hurry as Guillen throws him out, and Naring dives into an 0 for 39. 2 more stranded. Red Sox have left 10. But to the 9th we go. It's Boston 4, Chicago nothing, as Tom Bolton goes for the shutout.
And Steve McCaddy. We've got the Padres and Mets coming their way, and the Mets have been struggling a little bit with the bat with Darryl Strawberry gone.
When you lose a guy like Strawberry out of your lineup, the other guys try to pick up for him, and you can't do that. You just got to relax and play your game. If the Mets can get back to doing that, they should be fine.
Wally Whitehurst throws for New York against Eric Nolte for San Diego. It's coming your way next on ESPN.
All right, Steve, thanks. And right now, Tom is our focus. Bolton, that is, a shutout through 8. He has walked 2, fanned 5, and retired the last 7 hitters in a row. He faces Carlton Fisk as Chicago bats, top 9.
And just in case, the Red Sox have the Terminator up in the bullpen. Or the Red Sox version of the Terminator. Reardon is up.
Fisk rips one into the corner. Over to get it, Greenwell. It takes a crazy hop in the door down there. That'll ensure Carlton of the double. And the White Sox have their first extra base hit of the night. They've had a singular attack for the last couple of weeks. About 90% of their hits lately have been singles.
And Fisk gets a fastball. Bolton just trying to get ahead. And hits inside the door there. Greenwell had it played, or anticipated the play coming off the wall in the corner. If it had, he may have had a play at Fisk at second.
Yeah, he was planning on it. Reardon continues to heat up. Sammy Sosa, the hitter, and Sosa has a couple of hits tonight. Over but low, ball 1. A double by Fisk was Chicago's 8th hit of the night. Boston has had 7.
And Pena going out to the mound to give Reardon a little more time in the bullpen. Jeff is still throwing. Curious to see whether or not Bolton's curveball is starting to flatten out a little bit. Hasn't used it as much the last 3 innings or so, though he has a lead, so he's just trying to throw strikes. But earlier in the game, when the lead was in jeopardy, he really used that curveball and used it very well.
Well, Bolton, the guy who pitched very well after the All-Star break last year, and with Clemens injured and out for a month, it was Tom Bolton who came up with the unexpected total of 10 wins last year. There's a guy who had a life-threatening kidney condition just 3 years ago, and now establishing himself one of the better starters in the league. Could be 4-0 with the win. He gets help from Rivera. 1 out. I asked some Red Sox folks about Bolton before the game. Key word that they all threw at me was confidence. First time he's really had success as a starter in his career. And when he's on, you'll see the ball on the corners a lot. We have seen that tonight.
And you have to feel good for him, beating around in the minor leagues as long as he has. And another guy that helped the Red Sox down the stretch last year, Dana Kicker, also beat in the minors for quite some time before getting to the majors.
Grounder to the shortstop, Rivera. The tag at first, safe, and Carlton Fisk, with nobody on third, alertly heads over there. Boggs came well off the line to try to cut it off, couldn't reach it. Rivera's throw is wide, and Carlton Fisk, looking up, saw third base empty.
Well, Rivera gets an error on this, but I tell you what, when Boggs cuts in front of him, it really makes him adjust. The ball almost short hopped him and handcuffed him. And then he's got to set and make a long throw. Had a little more time than he originally thought. Quintana tries to make the play to save the error and record the second out, but it doesn't happen as the fans start to boo because they anticipate, as we do, that Jeff Reardon will be called in and Bolton won't get his first shutout or first complete game.
Now a safe situation. Here comes Jeff Reardon. Thank you, John. Talk about leaving on top, huh?
And I wonder if Bill Belichick would have wanted to know that decision before he left the Giants to go to Cleveland.
Well, can't look back now. Red Sox are looking forward to a win here if they can get Jeff Reardon to come on to get his 11th save of the year. He's 10 of 11. His first blown save was 24 hours ago right here.
And off this man. So the White Sox would like to look back. Matt Murillo hit that 2-out home run last night off Reardon. Takes a fastball strike. Reardon, the closer, looking for his 11th save of the season. It would be in 12 appearances. Fastball slider, like a lot of power pitchers up in age, will throw the slider a little more. Will start some of the tough hitters off with the slider as that one misses outside.
Well, Murillo, definitely Chicago's busiest pinch hitter. 2 for 6 with a home run, 2 RBIs. 2 home runs and 4 batted in overall. He's hitting .240. 2-1 pitch. Lifted out of play, left side. Don't forget, coming up in a matter of minutes, the Mets and Padres coming up. Whitehurst and Nolte on the mound tonight. Steves, Physiak, and McCaddy standing by to call it from the Valley, San Diego Stadium, where the Padres are only 2 back of the Braves at the start of the night. Atlanta winning at last report. They were tied with the Reds 2 back, Dodgers a game back when the night started. So that's coming up. And now Reardon goes to 3-2 on Murillo as the plot thickens here at Fenway.
And Reardon quietly only 3 saves away from 300.
Fastball down, hit into right field. Should be deep enough to score the run. Bernansky has it. Fisk scores. The shutout is gone, but a very important second out. It's 4-1 now.
Well, that's true, even though I'm sure he would have liked to have saved Bolton's shutout. At this point, obviously, you'll trade an out for a run.
At worst, Bolton will give up 1 earned run in 8 1/3 innings of work. This was a low fastball. Murillo went down and hit it pretty well. White Sox on the board finally, but too little too late. Ozzie Guillen, the hitter.
And again, starting off a hitter with a slider. Something Reardon wouldn't have done, say, 5 or 6 years ago when he was busy saving games for the Expos.
2-0 on Ozzie Guillen. White Sox need another runner to get that tying run to the plate. And then they've got some power. Lance Johnson due up next. I wonder if Jeff Torborg would think about Dan Pasqua in that situation. And he answers our question now as Pasqua comes out and walks to the on-deck circle. He's a guy who could tie the game if Ozzie can find a way to get on. Little pop-up left side. Looks like it's playable for Boggs in foul territory, and the Red Sox win it by a score of 4-1. Reardon with his 11th save. Tom Bolton was outstanding tonight.
He certainly was. He missed his shutout, missed his complete game, but he gave the Red Sox what they need, a good second starter behind somebody like Roger Clemens.
For Billy Sample, Bob Carpenter, that's it from Fenway. Sox win it 4-1. The Red Sox, that is. Now to San Diego. Here's Steve Physiak with Steve McCaddy. Gentlemen.